Georgia State outlasts TCU.
I don't know where to start, but this college football season has been absolutely insane. This week, Friday with USC and Utah, and then Saturday, we had a couple amazing games and a couple upsets, and honestly, the college football playoff picture is getting kind of dicey. I'm going to explain it all in this video. I'm going to show you guys my rankings as well as the week before, then the week that I have right now, just so you guys can see where I moved everybody. So without further ado, I'm going to show you guys my rankings before this week. And here they are. These are my last week's rankings, and now I'm going to flash new rankings for this week, and you guys can decipher what I got wrong or whatever. And I'm also going to give you guys my reasoning why I put teams where I put them, why I put certain teams above others, and some other controversial things as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so here's my top 25 for this week. We have Georgia sitting at number 1. They took care of business against LSU 50-30. It really wasn't close, even though they gave up like 500 passing yards. Actually, it might have been a little bit more than that. That secondary needs to do better work because I think they're going to be playing Ohio State, which is at the 4th spot. And Ohio State just loves to throw the ball around. If Ryan Day throws more than bubble screens, I think Georgia's going to have a tough time. But I really don't think Georgia's going to have to worry about this game. Ohio State's secondary is so bad that they're going to take advantage of it with those tight ends the entire game, and they're going to score as much as they want against it. But regardless, I have Georgia at the number 1 seed, and at the second, I have Michigan. Michigan was playing Purdue pretty close up until the end where they started to pull away. It was 36-22, and then they scored a late touchdown. So that score was 43-22, I believe. And they have finally locked up that second seed, and hopefully they'll get Blake Corum back and they'll be full strength and ready to make a championship run and all that. And after them, I have TCU. I know TCU lost today. They lost to Kansas State 31-28 in overtime, and they were already at the 3 spot, but they only lost by 3 and they're 12-1, and Ohio State's 11-1. They got blown out by Michigan at home, so I could not put Ohio State above TCU for the rematch. I do think it's going to be Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan and TCU in the playoff. That's how it's going to be. I know a lot of people want Alabama to get in. Alabama is not getting in with 2 losses and not even a SEC championship appearance. And it seems like the only people that think Alabama should get in are Alabama fans. Nobody else really thinks so. So I know a couple Alabama fans watch these videos, and I'm just going to say, guys, I'm sorry. Next year is probably going to be better, but this is just not your year. You guys are not that good on offense. Your defense is also not that good. You have Bryce Young, which he is the best quarterback, but as a team, you guys just are not ready to compete with Georgia, Michigan, and maybe even Ohio State. I believe Ohio State would throw the ball all over Alabama, and how Alabama's offense has been this year, I really don't think they'd be able to do that much unless they could go really downfield, but their wide receivers also aren't that good. So yes, Ohio State and Alabama would be a good game, and I think it would be very interesting, but for most deserving, Ohio State deserves it more than Alabama. I don't care that Alabama lost by a combined like 3 points or whatever. That is 2 losses. You didn't play for your championship, and I think this would be very different if they played Georgia and lost and then they were 10-2, or even if they were 10-2 and they won the SEC championship, then they would be above Ohio State. No questions asked. That is all I'm going to say about that. And then after Alabama, I have Penn State. They're going to finish in the 6th spot. I did put them above Tennessee just because I think they're a more complete team, and their only 2 losses are against Ohio State and Michigan, 2 of the 4 best teams in the country, and Tennessee has a terrible loss to South Carolina, and I just cannot forgive that loss at all. They looked atrocious, especially on defense, and I just think Penn State is better than them, and I think Alabama is overrated. Tennessee beat them at home by 3 points, and they honestly probably should have lost that game, I'm not gonna lie. So they're gonna be sitting at the 7th spot. USC, I dropped to the 8th spot. They lost pretty badly to Utah. They were sitting in the 4th spot for me. I did drop them back 4, and you could kind of look at Clemson and USC and flip-flop them because Clemson won 39-10 today against UNC and completely just tore them apart, and they won the ACC championship. So I do think that you can flip-flop the both, but I think USC is a better team than Clemson is overall, especially if DJ is the one that's playing and not Cade Klubnik. With Cade Klubnik, I think it's more of a toss-up. But I'm going to leave it at what I have it. And at number 10, the round on my top 10 is Kansas State. They beat TCU by 3. We talked about that earlier. Deuce Vaughn and Will Howard just did an amazing job against TCU. They played really well. And for the people that don't know, Kansas State, they don't have their starting quarterback, Adrian Martinez. Will Howard is the backup, and they were able to beat TCU. And TCU, they could not get it done. They got stopped on like the 2-yard line, 1-yard line, something like that, and they couldn't get a first down. Kansas State held strong, and they're the Big 12 champions, so I believe that they deserve to be in the top 10 a little bit more than Utah. Utah I have at the 11th spot, and they throttled USC like we were talking about earlier. I just think Kansas State is the better complete team in the end. They did beat an undefeated team that had a really good offense. So does USC. USC has a great offense, but I think TCU's defense is a little bit better than USC's, and then they were also undefeated, a rank higher, and no one seemed to be able to beat TCU and finish them off, but Kansas State did, and they were very resilient. So that's kind of why I gave Kansas State the nod in the top 10 instead of Utah, but I'd understand if you guys would put Utah at 10 and Kansas State at 11. But after them, I have Washington. I moved Washington down one. I think I had them at 10 or something like that, and I had to move them down because the other two won their championships. So solid team in Washington. Behind them, I have Oregon. Washington beat Oregon, so that's why I have them above them. And after Oregon, we have Florida State. Florida State's finished their season. They had a really good season. Travis played very well. This team has a bright future. I hope Norvell can keep it going in Tallahassee. And then behind them, we have Tulane, the Green Wave. They beat UCF pretty convincingly, and I wasn't too high on UCF. But, Tulane did their job. They came in, and I think they dropped 45. It was like 45 to 28, I believe. And I think they deserve to be top 15. They're 11-2 with their conference championship win, and I really cannot wait to see what they do. At 16 is where I had to drop LSU. I did have LSU at the 11th spot. I dropped them all the way 16. They lost by 20 points to Georgia, but they did put up a lot of yards, and they could have put up more points. I just don't think that they're ready. This is a good year for Brian Kelly. They beat Alabama. They beat some other good teams. And I truly believe Brian Kelly is going to win a national championship at LSU. This was a solid season, but they are not on Georgia's level yet. You could see in that game that Georgia was like swapping in players like the entire time, but LSU couldn't because they don't have the depth that Georgia does yet. They have to wait a few years, and you know what? They'll be just fine. I think they'll find their guy, or guys, I should say. But moving on, right behind them I have Oregon State. Oregon State has had a solid year. Their defense actually really stepped up. Their offense is good, but I'm really impressed with their defense. But sitting behind them, I have UCLA. UCLA also another solid year. DTR looked really good. Charbonnet also looked good. Their defense just isn't good at all, and that's the reason why they're sitting back here with the 3 losses that they have. And then we have Notre Dame sitting right behind them. They have 4 losses, but they have impressive wins. They beat Clemson, and I honestly believe that Notre Dame is going to be a lot better next year under their second year with Freeman. But behind them, I have South Carolina. South Carolina, their last 2 games, they beat Clemson at home, which someone hasn't done since 2017 Pittsburgh, and in the week before that, throttled Tennessee. So I think they deserve to be in that top 20, which they're at. Behind them, I have Texas. Texas, also a decent year. I think next year they're going to be better with Quinn Ewers. They do lose Bijan Robinson, but I think they'll have enough to make a run. I think they'll probably lose 2 or 3 games next year. I do think highly of the Longhorns with Quinn Ewers. And behind them, we have UTSA. UTSA finished the year. I think they only had 2 losses, 10-2, 11-2, something like that. And they definitely deserve to be in the top 25. They've been underrated the entire year. They're on like a 9-game win streak. So congratulations to them. And then behind the Roadrunners, we have North Carolina State. I know they haven't looked that impressive, but they did beat UNC when UNC was ranked higher. So I have to keep them in at that 23 spot. And behind them, we have a new team, Troy. They are 11-2. They won their conference championship against Coastal Carolina 45-26. And honestly, their team has been very underrated, just like UTSA all year long. And they deserve to be in the top 25 at the 24th spot. And at the 25th spot, I have Fresno State. Fresno State won the Mountain West. They beat Boise State 20-16, and they've been on a win streak as well. They've looked very impressive, and I truly believe that they deserve to be in the top 25. I'm gonna put them at the 25 spot, even though they are 9-4, and having 4 losses for a team like that isn't really good. And you could say that Mississippi State deserves to be in that 25th spot, but they won their championship game, and ever since going 1-4, they have won the rest of their games. and I think they should be 25. But I understand if you want to put Mississippi State there or maybe a couple other teams. But that's my top 25, and those are my thoughts about it and my reasoning behind where I put all the teams. And honestly, cannot wait for the college football playoff. I honestly believe that TCU is going to be able to put up a fight against Michigan, and Ohio State and Georgia is going to be a fun one as well. Finally get to have a playoff without Alabama, without Clemson in it, and we're adding some teams that usually aren't there. I know Michigan was there last year, but we never see TCU in here, and usually it's been Georgia and Alabama or either or. So yeah, we do have Georgia and we have Ohio State, but the other two teams, they're not in it that much. So I believe that it worked out, and honest to God, I am going to pick Georgia to win it all again. I think Georgia's going to beat Ohio State, and then they're going to beat Michigan again in the championship. I do think Michigan's going to beat TCU. I think they're too much for TCU to handle, and Georgia's going to be back-to-back national champions. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What videos you want to see? Do you want me to go over like who I think are going to be in what bowls and who's going to win, especially with all the opt-outs? I'm only going to make one more rankings video, and that's after the national championship game, and then I'm going to rank all the teams after the wins and losses compared to that, and that will be the final video for this. So I really need you guys to give me ideas about videos after that in the off season. I have some ideas, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.